and welcome back with us, Kezia and Dhruv. In 2020, the pandemic reached its peak. The world went into quarantine, countries and governments started to impose travel restrictions, causing the tourism industry to take a huge hit. This was bad news for the global tourism industry, including Africa, more specifically the sub-Saharan African countries, as tourism also supports a part of their GDPs.
Commonly seen as a third world country and contrary to popular beliefs and cinematic depictions, Africa is home to major tourist attractions, one of which includes the seven wonders of the world. Tourism industry is an excellent industry in Africa. It has an annual revenue of billions and provides employment to millions of people. With the help of our data, the tourism business in Africa can make efficient decisions on how to improve the tourism industry after the pandemic. Not only that, but our data can also help assist the government to make major decisions, such as increasing or decreasing expenditure on public goods and services and combating COVID as the tourism industry rises. So what are our objectives? Our first objective is to help in making financial decisions. Second objective is to reach the specific target market. And lastly, to help anticipate future demand after the pandemic.
Okay, so the first one is Cote d'Ivoire, the second is Comoros, and then there is Cabo Verde, Ethiopia, the Gambia, Madagascar, Mauritius, Namibia, Eswatini, Seychelles, Uganda, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. So here are the questions that we implied when we're collecting the data, which is the first one is what is the income rate of the country. So this is classified as ordinal data, and the first one is a low income, second one is lower middle income, and the third is middle income, the fourth is upper middle income, and the fifth is high income. And then the second question that we imposed is what is the number of arrivals in the country in the year 2018? This is classified as nominal data. And the third is what is the number of arrivals in the countries in the year 2019, also nominal data. And what is the number of arrivals in the country in the year 2020, also nominal data. And then what is the number of receipts in the country in the year 2018? It's also nominal data. And then what is the number of receipts in the country in the year 2019, which is also nominal data. And then the last one is what is the number of receipts in the country in the year 2020, which is also a nominal data.
Okay, so the data. The data was collected via the World Bank, which makes our data secondary data. We collected the data on the arrivals and the receipts of the 13 sub-Saharan African countries from the year 2018 to the year 2020. The data and the population are found through the number of visitors, which includes tourists, same-day visitors, cruise passengers, and crew members. The data is obtained from border statistics, police, immigration, and such, and is supplemented by the border surveys. As for the international tourist receipts, payment to national carriers for international transport. These receipts include any other payments made for goods or services received in the destination country. The receipts data are in current US dollars. So for the mechanics, there are four types of data scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Nominal scales are used for labeling variables without any quantitative value. The example of nominal scales are age, gender, and race. With ordinal scales, the order of the value is what is important and significant, but the differences between each one are really not known. Ordinal scales are typically measures of non-numerical concepts like satisfaction, happiness, and discomfort. Interval scales are numeric scales in which we know both the order and the exact difference between the values. The classic example of an interval scale is Celsius temperature. Everything about interval data applies to ratio scales. Plus, ratio scales have a clear definition of zero. Good examples of ratio variables include height, weight, and duration.
So in this scenario, the income rate is classified as the nominal data, and then the number of arrivals in 2018 to 2020, and also the number of receipts in 2018 to 2020 is classified as ordinal data. For our research on Sub-Saharan Africa's international tourism, the qualitative data is the income rate. The income rate is divided into 5 categories, namely low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, and high income. We choose income rate as this plays an important role in tourism and travel. By using SPSS, we can come up with the frequency table and chart. We can see that this category has a different cumulative percentage. The highest frequency consists of lower middle income, which have a frequency of 5 and a cumulative percentage of 69.2.
Okay, so we can see that during the year 2018 to 2019, the difference of arrivals are relatively stable, with slight increase and decrease with little marginal difference. Yet in 2020, in the midst of the lockdown and travel ban, the number of arrivals have drastically decreased. Over here, we can see that during this year, in 2018 to 2019, the number of receipts were relatively stable, while there was a slight increase and decrease. This was only marginal difference. On the other hand, we can see that in the year 2020, during the pandemic, the number of receipts had drastically decreased also. See the statistics in the table above. The mean is the average of the data. In our case, it shows us the average of the number of arrivals and receipts from the year 2018, which is approximately 2.1 million for the arrivals and approximately $1.5 billion for the receipts. And from 2019, which is also approximately 2.1 million for the arrivals and approximately 1.5 billion for the receipts, to approximately 590,000 for the arrivals and approximately $500 million for the receipts. We can see here the average seems to be similar and stable in the years 2018 and 2019. Yet in the year 2020, the average for arrivals and receipts seem to have been impacted by the pandemic, causing the average to decrease. The median is the middle number. After the numbers have been arranged in an ascending order, the middle number is picked out. We can see the income rate, the median, which is 2, is very similar to the mean, which is 2.38, which means that the data has reasonable symmetrical distribution. From 2018 to 2019, the arrival and receipts seem to have a stable median, but in the year 2020, we can see that the median has decreased. This tells us that data from the year 2019 to 2020 has an asymmetrical distribution. Standard deviation is a measure of the amount of variance or dispersion of a set of values. We can see that the data value is dispersed.
In conclusion, tourism is a relatively booming industry. We can understand this by looking at the data from the 2 categories tourism is broken down into, arrival and receipts. We can observe that from the year 2018 to 2019, arrivals stayed quite stable. Although countries had increased and decreased during this time, they were not significantly huge. They were different only by a small margin. In 2020, when the pandemic hit and the world went into lockdown, we can observe the number of arrivals statistically decreased as travel bans started to get imposed. Similarly, we can see for the receipts from the year 2018 to 2019, there were stable receipts with some marginal differences in the countries, but not a huge increase or decrease. And also in year 2020, when the pandemic hit, the number of receipts also drastically decreased. Our data can help companies and the government to make certain decisions in the tourism industry after the pandemic. Thank you for listening and see you again in our next video. Ciao!
Ciao!